I'm Fran, Osseo-Asare, and I am born and raised in the U.S., but I've been living with one foot in Ghana since the 1970s, when I first spent a year there before I married my husband, who is from Ghana. So I fell in love with Ghanaian food and began to share that love around me, and ran into the recognition that two things. One is that there was a very bad media image surrounding sub-Saharan African food particularly, and West African as well. And I also ran into the recognition that nobody was really championing and respecting and sharing information about these cuisines. Every once in a while, a food from Africa or something from Africa becomes, the fad. I think South African rooibos tea has been discovered now, so you can get it at Starbucks and anywhere else that you want to go. A few years ago, the cactus hudia, was a diet drug. I mean, things sort of get discovered and suddenly they're the in thing. So we should care, because we want to have as rich a diet and as adventure. I mean, it enriches us. It also helps us to understand people. I think food is really, really an important way to bridge barriers. When I went to Ghana and I couldn't speak Twi, or my husband speaks a kind of Twi called a Kwapin Twi. He speaks another language called Chirpong. I didn't know those. I lived in an area in a fishing village where Gan was spoken. I found that food would transcend barriers. So when we cook together and we eat together, it's good for us. And also, it's a kind of respect. I know when I was growing up, back in the 50s, people laughed about Japanese food, like, oh, made in Japan, they eat raw stuff. As soon as Japan became a world power, everything changed and people were rushing to sushi bars, okay? As somebody once said to me, if you eat snails in France, it's haute cuisine. If you eat snails in Africa, it's gross, it's primitive food. And a lot of that has to do with power, and because African countries have not been very powerful, we have had a tendency to denigrate their food as well. And I think that we should care about it, because we should recognize that we have blinders on. We should recognize that racism is also prevalent in our approaches to food, and we shouldn't think we know everything. We should just experience it. I realized that a lot of African women who could write down the kind of stuff that I wanted to share are not able to do that. They don't have the resources, or they're too busy surviving. And I had I was a writer and I'm a sociologist, and so I had the desire and the ability to begin to write down some of the things I had learned. And so I formed the African Culinary Network, and made to me as a place to focus, first of all, on the internet. There just was nothing out there like that. A lot of people only talk about African food in negative terms, starvation, poor health, famine, and violence and that. So I started writing about the food. There are a lot of second-generation immigrants in this country who don't even know how to cook their own food. It's kind of surprising to me, but a lot of people come to my site and say, thank you so much. I know the African students at Harvard, the president sent me an email saying that they had used a couple of my recipes, and they got more positive feedback on one of them than anything else, and she was thanking me. And I get those kind of emails a lot. So it's doing a service even to second-generation Africans who don't know how to make what their grandmother knew how to make.